So welcome to the Small Business Collaboration Summit, Vanessa Garrard. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you are based in Australia and over the past 25 years have grown consumer product and tech accessory businesses in Australia, China, UK, Europe and the US. And you've been recognised by Business Review Weekly and Ernst & Young for your outstanding achievements. And more recently, the Australian Financial Review named you among 100 women of influence. Your current venture is as founder of Global CEO of Adventure Operations, Australia's #1 camping and outdoor leisure products company. Now, one of the reasons that I very much wanted you to be part of this summit is I remember reading a LinkedIn post that you posted actually 2 years ago, because we've been thinking about this for quite some time. And this is how it went. It said, did a day trip to Melbourne today with a major brand company we're collaborating with to develop a world-first smart tech product range. I'll admit I love tech products, and I love business collaborations that create something completely new even more. So really asking you to be on this event was a no-brainer for me, because obviously collaboration has been part of the DNA of your business for the entire time. So I'd really love you to share your thoughts about how collaboration has played a part in your business journey and your business growth.
Oh, look, I think having my first business at 12 years old and several since, and bought and sold and created all these business from startups, and I think what I found over the years was the more I collaborated, the easier it got. There's a lot of really good brands and businesses, and we're all trying really hard to do our own thing. That if we actually work together, we get to the end result faster, right, and much easier. We've all learned so much. So something that was really clear to me, a few years back was I went to an event sitting with other small business owners, and many of the stories were exactly the same. Right? So a lot of things we were going through in terms of marketing and product development and sourcing products and working with teams. And it really didn't matter what the widget was or what the business model was. It turned out our issues or our challenges could be interchangeable, right? It was almost exactly the same thing. So at that point, I kind of went, well, do we need to learn everything ourselves? And is there a better way to just actually share knowledge or work together to get that end result quicker? So I think, it was, a few years back, and then I started to see some really big things happening, working with major brands and saying, look, you've got your brand, we've got this value, can we collaborate and work on something? And it's just taken on a life of its own. It's now part of our DNA as a business, and it's, between, I've got examples right now between a company we've just acquired and one that I've owned for 8 years, getting them together, and then they've come out with some incredibly, world first new products that we haven't seen before. So it's, looking the lens from both businesses and both teams to see the products in a completely different way. And what the end result now is something that's world first and retailers are really enjoying. So I think it's even, within the business, but also other brands, even businesses that are not our customers or suppliers. So we're seeing a lot of, I'm pushing the boundaries a little bit more now with working with other brands and other companies that may be in the same space with completely different product categories, and how do we bring those and stretch our brands together and collaborate and use the strength of both brands and databases, if you like, or customer base to say, how do we actually reach another level with this by putting them together? So there's a lot of collaboration.
Is there one collaboration that you're particularly proud of?
I think I met a doctor a few years back, and we were at another event, just sitting at a table, and we're at an entrepreneur event. And she actually came up to me, and so she's with a charity. So it was Hear and Say. And so Dr. Dimity Dornan was sitting at the table, and she said, I know you do electronics, and I've got this idea. And so she actually started talking about a product that she would like to see. And she's a charity, and they've never developed products, and it's not something that she'd be able to actually do. So as we're talking through the challenge, you said, I've got this there's a challenge we have where people are in noisy environments, they can't hear. So is there some kind of device we could have that you could actually sit in that you could hear all the conversations around you? So as we're sitting there, and it was within about 20 minutes, we actually decided that there actually probably was a product that we could develop up. And I came back to the team the next day and said, what if we, use the knowledge of their research on hearing and they work with cochlear implants and all sorts of things, say, is there a product that we could have for mass market and develop up? So we actually used her knowledge of everything she's known over the last 25 years with hearing. Our electronics knowledge, and actually came up with this new product. So it's about to hit the market now, which is, again, is a world first product. And, it's now giving an income stream to Hear and Say, and which is her charity. And it's, it's a product that sits in the middle of the table and you can hear all the conversations going on around you in a noisy environment. And that was just a discussion that came up. So just I think that one's a really cool one, because it worked out, from an idea, or just, it really was just a chat, and then came into, okay, let's sort of look into this more. It wasn't actually either of us it wasn't on either agenda to develop it or make it. And all of a sudden we've come together and said, hey, there is actually a gap in the market here. What if we do actually put some energy behind it and create something? So I think that's a really cool example. A recent one with my electronics company and my camping company. So you would think, right, there's not a lot of crossover there. We had the two teams together, and they looked at our top selling products in outdoor with gazebos and tents. So the electronics team were just sort of floating ideas around and saying, okay, is there anything what's our roadmap look like in future for products? We started talking through these key products, and you would think that there was nothing we could actually add in terms of electronics to it. It turned out we could actually integrate lighting and power, a whole heap of other products into these tents and gazebos. So again, neither business would have looked at those, right, on their own, and having them in the room together and saying, well, what if I could put some tech into it? And what if we could do this? And, and then having the strength of, experience and skill set in both of those teams to then come together and develop up. Again, another world first was, gazebos with, Bluetooth speakers and, lights on. So you're at your party, you're out camping, and you've got lighting and audio. And same with the tents, right? So now that's built in. You don't have to have a separate light. So they've hit the market and been received really well, but I don't think either business would have actually naturally developed up those products.
So it really shows the power of communication, a power of sharing and having conversations, and just that what if, it's that dreaming and just seeing if there are opportunities to create new product range, and not even, as you mentioned before with the charity, across industries. It doesn't even have to be in your product range or in your industry. You can start to really think creatively across industries about how you can, create new ideas. So it's fabulous. Great examples. Thank you so much. Now, you mentioned before you attend events, and, the entrepreneurs at the events have similar issues. Now, there seems to be obviously a lot of fear around collaboration. Some companies do, some companies don't. And I was just wondering if you could share what you think it is that stops businesses, especially small businesses, from collaborating.
Look, I honestly, I think what I've experienced myself over the years was it was more that I didn't want to ask. And I think that's actually happening a lot with small business. And I think the more I'm involved in I do, mentor walks, and I organise a lot with startups, with the universities and things. So, being involved in so much of that eco space of startups, I actually think there's a lot of it where they're just at home, building their business, or they're in a shared space, and they just, don't think they're big enough yet to ask. Right, and they almost undervalue their own value, if you like. So I think the challenge really is that there's some really cool products and innovation out there, and even business models, and probably thinking, well, when I'm a bit bigger, I'll approach them, right? And it could actually, and I use the example all the time now. I say, look, if you don't ask, what's the worst case? They say no, right? So what have you lost? You didn't have it before. But if you can sit down and say, what if this thing, and you don't have to give away a lot of your IP, you could be saying, got this idea, what do you think? If you've got a real value that you bring to the table, it's not easy to copy anyway, right? Yeah. So I think it's being either scared that someone's going to steal their idea is another part. You get a lot of small business that'll think that that's a problem, instead of saying that if they worked with a bigger brand or another company and actually went faster, that's probably more valuable because you're hitting the market and more impact than if you tried to do it slowly, by yourself, right, and churning that thing. I think one is, I think definitely confidence would be it, and I think go and ask, or talk to other businesses. And I think they're too busy, right? There's a lot of small businesses are trying to do everything, and they just think I'll get to it at some point. And so I think it's really making a priority of some of this stuff to say who is stronger in that particular piece, or who's got we're collaborating right now with things like Netball Queensland. We're looking at a younger audience, so we're bringing in some camping chairs and things for young girls. So we don't have that naturally in this business as a customer base. So they're using our products, but we don't market to them. So to go into that space, we said, well, look, who does do that particularly well? Who's got a strong network or, customer base or reach into that age group? Netball comes to mind, right? Gymnastics. So a few of these. So we said, well, let's partner with them, be at the events. And, we started doing some dual branding on products. So you see Netball Queensland, OZtrail chairs and, at the games, and we're doing some fun stuff with them. And it's actually taken on a life of its own now, right? So we take a big fun chair that we've developed and all the kids are taking Twitter, Instagram photos and it's now they're actually selling it for us.
Yeah.
Again, neither one would have actually looked at that. We've actually sit there and say, okay, they've got some strength and brand in their space. It's something that would help us. We could go and spend a lot of money trying to build that, but we're not naturally seen as that. So it's probably a lot of money would be spent and lost. We'd be better off actually collaborating, working with them and saying, okay, how do we actually bring this to life in that space together? And it's worked for both of us in that instance.
Obviously, trust plays a huge role in being able to establish good collaborations and maintain good collaborations. How have you managed, you obviously have collaborations going across many different angles of your different businesses. How do you keep that sense of alignment, trust and coordination so that everything runs smoothly? Have you got any tips to give on the success of a good collaboration?
I think alignment, if we talk about alignment and trust, like you've got to pick the right people. There's probably, particularly with small business, there's probably a lot of people you can collaborate with. You've really got to understand what it is of the outcome. So for us in particular with that netball, was we knew the audience, we knew the age group, we needed to be outdoor fit. There's a whole heap of parts to that DNA that made sense for both brands. So I think, we could have just said who's got a big audience and it might have been a disjoint, right, if we'd gone for something else. So I think it's being very clear on what you need or want to produce from that collaboration, and then, who are the right partners. So seeing from the outset, not getting carried away with this, this person's got a big Instagram, following or, is it the right following? Is it the ones that engage? Is it the same DNA as yours, right? Is it something that you actually aspire to be and actually you're comfortable your brand being involved in that and vice versa? I've seen a lot of things happen in collaboration. They've just chosen the wrong brand for the wrong reasons and it's fallen on its face. So it's knowing from the outset what is that you needed and want from it and, would work best for your brands, collaborating with the right people. In terms of keeping projects aligned and on track, project sheets, it's just details. It's any kind of managing a project, knowing what those key the timelines are, when are those sign-offs, what do we need done by what dates, everyone involved, because you're working with, particularly if you start doing it, across organisations where you've got, different people involved. So if you've got multiple people, it may be that you've got two in a room and say, yes, let's do it. And there may be 10 other people around, outside of that and making decisions and supporting the project. If their timing's off, the whole thing's off. Right? So you've got to get everybody together saying, here's the program we're working to. We're all aligned, yes, yeah. And then move to that and just do those regular catch-ups. So on all our projects, we'd be looking at weekly updates. Here's where we're at. Central communication points. You'd have a project sheet. We use a tool called Trello. We have that up there and everybody can see everything related to it. It's not picking up the wrong email or picking up the wrong version of a project or data. It's all in the one spot and it's always 100%, the right information that you're pulling out. I think they're using, tools that keep it clear and timelines, right? Keeping on timelines.
Have you found a difference between the collaborations you've had with the multinationals versus smaller businesses and associations?
Yeah. I think, we've worked with collaborations with Samsung and Warner Brothers and things, retailers over the years as well. They're always harder. There's a lot. It's very difficult because you've got to get a lot of people. There's a lot of stakeholders. You've got to get a lot of people across the line. A lot of it hasn't been done before, so they're then too scared to make some of those decisions. Right? And so typically I think they're a lot slower to do it. Small business, most of the time, you're looking at the founder or the entrepreneur that's actually the one who's making the decision. And if they're bang on and want something to happen, and they get in there and do it. And, most of those you've actually got a smaller team to actually, they're more agile. Right? So it's easier. And I would say for a small business, you should absolutely try and collaborate as much as you can because you can do it. You can you can be flexible. And look, the worst thing, if it doesn't work, then you stop and you do something else. Right? So you're not so stuck in it. You see a lot of major projects with retailers or bigger corporates, they've already invested the money, so you just got to keep going. We've got the ability as entrepreneurs and business owners to actually say, okay, no, look, stop or pivot or change it slightly, or let's go and chase a different sort of avenue with it. I think, small business should be collaborating.
Have you ever had any challenges internally with your staff to be able to help them understand collaboration better, to build that collaboration focus for your business? Have you ever had any challenges?
Look, I think internally, no. Like, we've hired people for that, and they know from the start it's collaborations. Everything's about teams collaborating. And when they've come into the organisation, no. The ones that have been with us for a long time, no. Most of my team are with me for 10 years plus. They've always had that. The challenge I've seen is, sometimes we've acquired a new business, such as, an older business that, just stuck, right, in their ways. And there's no real reason. It'll just be because we do it this way. And saying, well, what if we get the teams together and let's pull our product team together, our marketing team and our creative teams together and actually learn best of breed of both, right? Because there's going to be strengths in both. What I find then is there's a challenge a bit in trying to get to even sharing that information, or, but I do it this way. And they're almost to that point where they might be scared of their own job, like losing their own job. I'm saying, but if you actually work together and you start to see the momentum, it's like contagious, right? If you're in this office and you start seeing the team working on it and you pull them together and they're bringing their strength of knowledge and skill set together, all of a sudden these things just take on a life of their own, and it's amazing to see. So, I think sometimes there can be, if they're not used to it, there can be a hesitation to do that. But once you do, it's pretty exciting, right? So when they see it and they've experienced it, then they got it.
Yep. You've won them over.
Yeah. Well, it just makes it easier. It's just amazing how things just run, and they're just, faster, and you get more projects done, and it's, it's not on one person. I find a lot of the time the bottleneck will be because you're trying to do everything yourself, or a person in a particular role is trying to do that, and you're limited. If that person's away sick, or, what do you do, right? So you've got a team building this. It doesn't matter if it's an internal team or it's, two external companies working together. The more you get together, it still moves forward. The momentum's still there.
So just to end our interview today, I'm just wondering if you could really kind of sum it up or bring together what you feel have been the key elements for you for successful, sustainable collaborations.
Okay, I think understanding, being very clear about why you want that collaboration or why that makes sense to your business. So having that clear brief, if you like, as to what it looks like. What does the end game look like? Because I see a lot of people make decisions based on right now. It feels good right now. If you did fast forward this and look at the big picture in, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years time, what does it look like then? Is that decision you're making today going to be the same? Right? If you think about a bigger picture, if we start to look at, if we do this collaboration, could it lead into something else? Is this a stepping stone of maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 step process that gets bigger together? I think that's really cool if you can work through that and understand where you want it to be, and then work backwards to go, okay, what's the decision I'm making today? There's a lot of collaborations, a lot of feel good stuff that happens. I'm not sure whether it's necessarily impactful. So it's really, in the business sense, does it, and your brand, does it make sense in the long run? And, scale it back into steps, easy steps from this point forward on the decisions you make. I think just being extremely clear on what it is, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's the timeline of it, and that's how this thing works.
Thank you so much, Vanessa Garrard, for being with us at the Small Business Collaboration Summit. I've learned so much, and I'm sure that the audience will take away much of what you've said, and I hope they do, because I'll just say to them that you are listening to a woman who has grown so many successful businesses, mentors, and is really a shining light in entrepreneurialism in Australia. And I really hope that they really just take what you have advised and the insights and apply it to their businesses immediately, and they will see results. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with us and for being part of the Small Business Collaboration Summit. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Very much for having me.
Check out the rest of the Small Business Summit interviews with business collaboration trailblazers from all over the world. Make sure you share this event with your network to spread the insight and knowledge of the emerging business collaboration paradigm. Brought to you by Busy.co, where the world's small businesses come to collaborate. Take the knowledge and insights gained from these interviews and start collaborating on Busy.